Let me tell you the tale of Joe Hatherley, a man whose world was so small he thought he'd memorize the cracks in the cobblestone. In the quiet village of Blackwillow, where time moved as slow as the autumn fog, Joe lived a life defined by patterns. Mornings filled with tea and half-hearted newspaper articles, afternoons tending a tiny garden behind his cottage, and evenings spent gazing into a sky untroubled by stars or dreams. Joe would often say to himself, boredom is just a part of living, like dust under a rug. Yet every now and again, he'd wonder if something else might be waiting beyond the edges of his safe, uneventful days. But on a chilly dusk, where the wind tasted faintly of copper and the moon hid behind ragged clouds, Joe's world tilted. He was ambling home, skirting the edge of the old churchyard, when he noticed something peculiar. A shimmer by the crumbling lich gate, out of place in a town allergic to magic or marvel. Drawn by a curious hum that seemed to echo just behind his ears, Joe reached out and touched the air. And the world peeled away like a page from a book. He found himself tumbling through shadow and starlight, street lamps replaced by floating lanterns, hedges now tall as giants, every breath thick with the perfume of ancient secrets. Before he could gather his wits, the shimmering passage snapped shut behind him, leaving Joe alone at the crossroads of realms, where midnight cities climbed impossible cliffs and forests, whispered in languages older than sunlight. This must be a dream, he thought, his hands trembling, or a madness I can wake from. But the hard earth bruised his palms when he tried to stand, and the forest's eyes, ruby, emerald, gold, blinked back at him. Soon, beings unlike any conjured by fairy books stepped from the shadows. An owlbear cub snuffling at his boots, a gnome in robes stitched from the night sky, and a willowy woman whose braided hair glimmered with captive lightning. Their words made little sense at first, a swirl of riddles and warning. Yet one thing was clear, the crossroads was hungry for stories, and it recognized none as plain. "You're the changeling of the evening gate," the gnome proclaimed, peering up through thick-lensed spectacles. "Prophecy's pawns seldom know their part until the dice are cast." Joe laughed then, hoping bravado would slow his pounding heart. "Prophecies choose heroes, not third sons with muddy boots." "All stories begin with an accident of chance," the woman replied softly, lightning flickering at her fingertips. His first misadventure was as sudden as the last. Herded by instinct more than courage, Joe found himself joining a ragtag band on an urgent quest, a puzzle box stolen from the Library of Forgotten Names, pursued by snake-eyed mercenaries and riddling spirits. He was hopeless with a sword, clumsy around magic, and woefully unversed in ancient politics. But as the streets twined impossibly and the sky unfolded into drifts of color, Joe learned to walk with uncertainty as his sharpest tool. In the quiet moments between skirmishes, he'd whisper to himself, "If I keep moving, maybe fear won't catch up to me." Yet fear always found him. Alone at night, he'd finger the pebble that had been in his pocket since Blackwillow, feeling its plainness as a wisp of tether to his old world. Alliances ebbed and flowed. A cunning tabaxi thief, tail always twitching, taught him to listen more than speak. A storm-worn paladin pressed a shield into his hands and said, "Sometimes valor is just standing your ground when you'd rather run." And through it all, Joe kept his eyes on the next step forward, even as betrayals nipped at his heels, even as the path home grew fainter with each new dawn. After 100 strange dawns, Joe found himself before the Weir Gate, the only portal that might return him to Blackwillow. But to open it, he needed the very puzzle box his party had fought so desperately to recover. And now, it was in the hands of his erstwhile ally, the gnome whose eyes now glinted with ambition rather than camaraderie. They met beneath a sky stained with indigo ghosts. The gnome, turning the box in trembling hands, looked up. Return and forget, or stay and become something more. The crossroads will have its price, Joe. He remembered his old life then, the lull of sameness, the comfort of inaction.
Yet he now also remembered the taste of risk and wildness, what it felt like to matter, even for a heartbeat in a world awash with wonders. Somewhere in his mind, a new certainty bloomed. Maybe I was never meant to be extraordinary, but maybe I can choose to stay anyway. Joe handed over his pebble, a simple token, yet charged now with the weight of every choice he'd made. The gnome took it, and a bridge of starlight unfurled between worlds. Yet as Joe stepped toward the portal, he paused. "I think I'll stay, just a while longer," he said softly, surprising even himself. "Let the world spin a little more wildly." Whether Joe will finally find his way home, none can say. But at the fabled crossroads, in realms where chaos births courage, one ordinary soul continues to wander, proving that fate is not written, but forged, step by trembling step. What about you, firelight traveler? Would you dare to step through the gate? Suggest our next tale. Your idea may soon echo among these glowing embers. And remember, heroes come in all guises. Never forget to like, subscribe, and let your own legend begin.